Hello and welcome to this special edition of Montessori Sports Talks. It's winter. We are in Egmond. That's a little Dutch village near the sea. And today I'm sitting here with our new Montessori Sports team member. Anne, could you please introduce yourself and share some of your winter sports experiences?
Yes, thank you, Jip. Hi, everyone. So my name is Anne. I'm from the Netherlands as well, and I have a history in modern pentathlon. I've been doing that internationally, and modern pentathlon consists of running, swimming, fencing, horseback riding, and shooting. And of course, we've been training always all winter. So of course we had some adjustments, like in running, gloves and a hat and a little bit thicker clothing, and making sure my hair is always dry when I come out of the changing room, or a thicker bathrobe. But I love training in the winter; it doesn't stop me. What about you, Jip?
Well, I have a background as a professional football player, and I still play football. And for me, I think playing football in the winter. Well, I'm more than other people. I get hot very often, so I like the winter actually, and I prefer playing in cold weather conditions. So I like it when it's a bit colder, so that I don't overheat that easily. However, it's about regulating the heat and what kind of material do you use, how many layers, the gloves, the beanies, a neck warmer. It all works together.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge at times to find the right clothing, but it's a lot of fun if it's snowing, for example, and then you have to play some football. You have to clean up. You have to have a snow fight. It's all part of the game.
I agree, it's fun. And that's what we're going to talk about in this talk. So winter is coming and Christmas break is coming. So that can be a challenge, especially in these times, with the lockdowns and indoor training not being possible. So we want to give you some tips, what you can do during the Christmas break, what you can tell to parents. So do you have some tips, Jip?
I think before we talk about what kind of activities you can do in these outdoors conditions, it's good to have some general information about body temperature and the effects of clothing. Too often you see that young children, they look very cute, but they have too many layers or thick clothes that make them heavy. And that make them feel a little bit uncomfortable regarding movement, and so it actually inhibits them from playing outside instead of helping them to move outside. So it's good to know that body temperature rises when you do sports. That's in hot weather conditions and that's in cold weather conditions.
Yeah, so that's normal.
That's normal, and it's about regulating that heat. It's not about keeping it close to you, because that can be dangerous. Neither is it about only externalizing the heat. It is about regulating it. And how can you regulate it? That's the question, of course. I think many have heard about usage of layers. And what kind of materials do you use for these layers, for example? How many layers? And gloves, beanies, because you lose a lot of heat through your extremities, hands, feet, your head, nose, ears. You recognize it, right? If you play outside, those are the first things that get cold, that get a different color. So those are parts of the body that we need to take care of. Plus,
we cover them with gloves.
We cover them with gloves and beanies, etc. But it's also good to know that for young children compared to adults, their skin surface is relatively big, large compared to their body weight. And if you know that body weight leaves your body through your skin, you can calculate that the more skin surface you have compared to your body weight, the quicker you cool off. And that's why young children get cold quicker than us adults do. Because they have more skin surface compared to their body weight.
Could you say something about the layers then? What is that important?
Yeah. Let's talk about weather conditions. -5 degrees until 5 degrees in the plus. Other extreme weather conditions do require a different approach, maybe. But let's talk about the most common weather type. That's -5 to +5. The first layer needs to be of fleece, polyester, or wool, not made of cotton. Why? Cotton absorbs the moisture, so it absorbs the sweat, and it actually cools off the body really quick because the heat cannot be regulated, and it's cold clothes all over your body. Not recommended. So
I remember training in those shirts, and you can actually wrench them, and sweat is coming out. Like
yeah,
it's not
and
going
even
away.
in hot weather you can get cold that way.
Yeah.
No cotton. Rule number 1. Use polyester, wool, or fleeced products, and they need to be stretchy and they need to be breathable. So not too big, too wide that it's limiting their movements.
Yeah.
It needs to be tight around the body and stretchy, plus breathable, so that there can be some kind of airflow, so that we can externalize the moisture and the sweat. Otherwise, it gets trapped, and we don't want that. That's the first layer. The second layer is the same. Also needs to be stretchy and needs to be breathable. Not made of cotton, but again, fleece, polyester, or wool. The outer layer needs to be light of weight, so not the heavy jackets, but light of weight and water plus windproof. So that is
very important.
Yeah, so that if it's raining or snowing, and if it's a very heavy wind, that the children are protected from these conditions. Brings us to the use of gloves and beanies. You can use for protection of the feet. You can use 2 layers of socks.
Yeah, feet should always stay dry, right?
Yeah, feet should stay dry. Should stay dry. Little details when it comes to this. A scarf, for example. Again, it looks really cute, but it can actually be dangerous. Or it really inhibits because it gets loose. You can pull it. It can be get stuck in the trees, for example. So we advise not to use scarves.
Yeah, it's also kind of distracting, right?
It can be very distracting. If you observe children playing outside, you often see the use of scarves. And if you pay close attention, you'll see that they'll be more likely to get distracted by it than that it actually helps them in their movement. So you could use a neck warmer, really simple to pull over your head, and it protects this little area, because that's one of the areas that often stays open. And then snow can come in, and you know that feeling. Remember when you were a bit younger or older, that the snow gets trapped right in between there, or that when you're having a snow fight, the snow gets into your sleeves. So make sure that that is closed. You can wear longer gloves, or you can tuck in your first layer. You can tuck it in the gloves, and then the outer layers are covering it. And the same can be done for the socks, that you put your first layer of legging, that you put it into the socks, so that there are no open spaces where the snow or water can enter your feet. Otherwise you have wet feet, and your feet are an extremity, and you lose you lose heat very quickly over there.
Yeah, those are good tips. And it's important to stress that for the layers, having multiple layers, it actually keeps the heat in, right?
Yeah, true. The air in between the layers, that is what insulates. So it's not the clothes that actually insulate. It is the air that gets trapped in between the layers that insulates you. And it also makes the flow of moisture, of sweat possible, that it can leave your body. Otherwise it gets trapped, and it cools off. And that's not what we want. We don't want to cool off too much, and we don't want to trap the heat.
Yeah,
we want to create a healthy flow of
Yeah.
of heat.
Yeah, that's good to know about
Good point.
layers. And
True.
also, if when wearing a lot of layers and it's getting hotter or you're moving a lot, it's also very easy to take one off and still be warm.
True. Yeah, it's the children here have the freedom of choice, which is a big part in Montessori education to take off
Yeah.
a layer or two.
Nice. And yeah, about snow, we already talked about it. We have some examples, right? So
True.
some videos about how it should look like and how it should not look like.
Yeah, let's start with how it should not look like.
Okay.
I think we all can imagine this little child playing outside, and well, they have they look like well, they look very cute, but
Like
you
a
can
little
imagine
mummy.
that this little one doesn't move easily, and that they want to take off the jacket, take off the scarf. They can't even breathe properly. You often see that the scarf covers their mouth.
Yeah.
That means that they can't breathe properly. Also pretty important with regulating your heat. So this is how it should not look like. However, we do have an example of what it should look like, and that's from Christine, one of our course graduates from the USA, and she sent us this video. Yeah, so in one of our previous Montessori sports talks, we actually discuss walking on a balance bar and providing certain obstacles within this parkour. But you can see that this child has a nice beanie, gloves, and that he moves easily.
Yeah, indeed. So they can do basically everything. Looks like it because the clothing is comfortable but still warm, and also the hands and the head are covered.
Yeah, and this hoodie on the right bottom, the child that is sitting and watching on the right, that's a nice way to cover the neck as well. That prevents it from getting snow or water on their backs.
Yeah, nice.
And it's a nice segue to, I think, other examples of activities that we can do, or that you can do if you're watching this video. For some examples, I think it's good to mention that we as Montessori Sports, we stimulate the integration of movement into the daily lives of children, also of adults. So there's an important role of the adult to be an example. And too often it's not that the child doesn't want to play outside, but the adult doesn't want to go outside because the clothes get wet or the child gets dirty. Anyway, more work for the parent or for the teacher, for the adult. But if we role model this to children, we're actually showing them you can only play outside when it's sunny and it's nice weather. And in life, that's not always the case.
Yeah, or they are just following their example and thinking that it's not normal to go outside.
Yeah, indeed. So there's an important role for the adult to, in these weather conditions, to go outside, to go for a hike, or if you don't want to do a hike, you could use the weather conditions. And we all remember these nice memories of building a snowman with your family or your friends or your neighbors. If you can't travel far, whether it's restrictions or the weather conditions are like Christine in the USA, with so much snow, you can go and play with the neighborhood. You can even help the neighborhood. There are many leaves in the winter period. You can organize some kind of cleanup whereby you gather the children, clean up the leaves, you help the community. Plus the children, once they have collected all the leaves, it's a lot of fun to play with that many leaves. Of course, you have the traditional winter sports. Too many to mention right now. But yeah, I think the most important is for the adult to show that it's normal to do sports outside, even when it's winter, even when it's a bit more of a challenge. And I think if you really can't go outside, in our membership, we have a video library, and there are many activities you can do indoors as well. You can do them outdoors if you choose to do so. And we have written an article about winter clothing that will be on our website and on the social media. We'll share that as well. So make sure that you read that article.
In the article, there's also a graph about the wind. So it could be, for example, that outside it's -2 degrees, but then there's like a certain wind. You can actually, if you know the strength of the wind, you can calculate. It's actually feeling temperature -8. So then you should have some extra layers or adapt to that as well, right?
Yeah, indeed. It's a combination of weather temperature and wind, rain that eventually determines the the temperature that you feel, and it can be different than it states on the thermometer.
Yeah.
But good point. All right, thank you, Anne.
Yeah, I think it was very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, and I wish you a lot of fun playing outside in the winter.